We can't believe it either, but let's take a look back at the insanity that was this week and look ahead to what will make us facepalm next week. This is What Just Happened on the Dean Obeidallah Show. Take it away, Dean.
And welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live Friday, October 18th, and it's What Just Happened. And this week, very excited, two great guests who know each other well. And one, it's his first time back on Sirius XM in a long time, since his heart surgery, his actual artery surgery. But right now, first, Carolina Hidalgo, welcome back to the show, comedian, co-host of the podcast Movie Sign with the Mads.
Hey.
Nice to see you, my friend.
I love that show.
Yeah, that's a good show, right?
Right next to her is a person who's also part of Movie Sign with the Mads, TV's Frank Conniff. Frank, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. This is my triumphant return to Sirius after being away. Not just for my heart surgery, but before that, because what happened? Oh yeah, they shit canned me. So, so I don't even know if. Well, luckily I lost a lot of weight. I look differently now, so I was able to sneak into the building.
We told me you were Frank's brother. We told me you were Frank's younger brother. Like, oh, it's Bob. How long ago did you leave here? How many months?
That was like last spring, at least. You know, that was
a
while ago, or
right.
maybe even sooner than that, or longer time ago than that. I don't know. I don't know exactly when it was.
Well, my friend, before we talk about the comedy issues, we're going to talk about Tulsi Gabbard, because I know you want to chime in. Tell us a little bit about your story and what your signs were that you were having heart issues, so that it's to inform others that if they hear them, not to put it off, because you were telling me before we went on that you knew something was up, but you were denying it to yourself. So what were you feeling? What were your symptoms?
As I was telling you before, I like to go on long walks, and earlier in the year, as I was going on these long walks, like I felt my heart just felt weak, and I would have to stop at I would stop at a stoplight even if it was green, like I would stop, and then like when I was walking through Central Park, like I'd sit in a bench for a while and then regain my strength kind of and get up.
Did you have shortness of breath?
Not quite shortness of breath, but just like my heart just wasn't working. It wasn't, it was.
So you can feel it was your heart. You knew it was a heart issue.
Totally. And like I said, I was in denial, and I was hoping, maybe if I just keep exercising, it'll get better. And then one night I was just at home and not even walking, but just sitting still, and I had this really thing where my heart felt really messed up, and I felt nauseous, and I could tell something was really wrong. And then I called 911, and the ambulance came. And for me, that was a radical act, because and this is not a good thing, I don't recommend this, but I was the kind of person who just never went to the doctor ever. I just avoided it. And
by the way, in your house, did you have any of the classic symptoms of a heart? Did you have pain radiating from your chest to your left arm?
No, it wasn't like that. It was just like my heart just felt it was beating really fast, and it made me feel sick, and it was something very unusual. It was something I hadn't experienced before, and I knew something was wrong. And for people listening, I hope if your first sign that something might be wrong with your heart, if you feel that, you're probably right. You can tell what's going on in your body. That. So get that checked out like right away. Don't be like me and just be in denial about it, and pretending there's nothing wrong is not a good medical procedure, which has always been my way of going.
Two things: pretending nothing is wrong, and admitting quid pro quo on national television is not good.
Yes.
Either. So those are the two bad. So So you didn't have a heart attack. You had these symptoms.
Yeah, I had a thing, and then I went and I've never been overnight in a hospital ever before, and I went in, and my hope, and in the ambulance I felt guilty, because I was like, they could be picking up people more deserving of, I felt like kind of a faker, but I wasn't faking. But I got to the emergency room, and I just felt, they're going to give me some aspirin, they're going to give me some medication, they're going to send me home. Everything's going to be cool, and then they're like, no, you have to stay here overnight. And then they did some tests on me, and and they were like, we're going to see if we can just put some stents in, which is what Bernie had.
Right.
Bernie didn't have the heart surgery. He just had them putting stents in,
Right.
which is why I think he's able to be back
Sure.
on the trail so soon. So they said, or we're going to see, and if we do the stents, there's no surgery that involved. It's a much better procedure. And they looked at, they did the x-ray or whatever it was, and they're like, guess what? Quadruple bypass surgery tomorrow morning. And that's what happened.
So they just told you the day before, and the next day they said quadruple bypass.
That night, when I was there, and I was there pretty, I didn't get there. It was like late at night when the whole thing happened anyway, And
of course you tweeted. I saw a tweet of Frank. It was on either Instagram or Twitter, like with a hospital bracelet. And you said, tomorrow, I'm either going home tomorrow or having heart surgery.
Yeah, I said I'm
like
either
that.
having stents or I'm having heart surgery. And the point I made in the tweet was like, you should, treasure when you can just go about your day. Because I was missing a gig that was going to be fun. Harmon Leon, our mutual, I think you guys know him. He was booked me for a gig that night. And so I missed out on that, And I was just like, treasure the mundane things in your life that you're healthy enough to do, because I'm going in for fucking heart surgery,
So they did open heart surgery for you, quadruple bypass?
Yeah, they did a quadruple bypass, open heart. They opened me up, and and as my therapist will tell you, I'm not good at opening up. But
Frank, by the way, folks, Frank looks great. Just so I say that.
Thank you.
Yeah. You look good. You've lost 50 pounds.
Yeah,
you said.
It's
They did a nose job for you as well, which is they threw in a whole package, a whole makeover
He's
thing.
a new man.
They did, and they gave me the Hannibal Lecter plastic surgery. But it's really, I have to say though, it's the stupidest way to lose weight you possibly can. It's such a horrible, harrowing experience. Just how sick I felt, and the reason I lost so much weight is I had no appetite for like 2 months. I just couldn't eat anything because when you come out of the surgery the next day, I mean, my heart was already much better, but it's your body recovering from the fact that they open you up and and
How
also,
long were you in the hospital?
I was in the hospital for about a week, and then I came home, and Carolina visited me.
She did. She updated us. I would email her sometime. I would email like, "What's going on with Frank?"
And she brought me a photograph of Jennifer.
A framed photo of Jennifer Lawrence.
Yes, Jennifer
I brought it
Lawrence.
to his hospital room, because if like nothing else can like get you better, then I don't know what else will.
Yes.
Did that work? Did Jennifer Lawrence?
It worked, and everyone, all the nurses at the hotel, the hospital, got me doing it now.
So
They were very impressed that I knew Jennifer Lawrence.
This might be
even
the
though
only-
I'd never met her.
this might be the only gig that comedians don't ask you who books that.
Yes,
Because,
exactly.
Anything anyone gets, a comedian, other comics go, "Who books that?"
Yeah.
But like this is a little different. So I'm glad that you're doing well. How long did you have to actually recuperate at home?
I was recuperating all. The surgery happened the weekend before 4th of July weekend, and so I was in the hospital for 4th of July weekend, and then I was just home all summer. I was just sitting in my lazy boy chair watching TV and doing nothing. I kind of loved it. No, but so yeah. I mean, I didn't have any energy to do anything, and then all my good friends like Carolina and my sister Lucy and my neighbor Kathleen and my brother Tony, and all my friends like John Fugelsang and Jen. They all, Irene Bremis, they all came over and hung out, and I just got a lot of support. And ultimately now, like, I just feel very grateful. I think I was very lucky. I think I was lucky that it happened to me when it did. It happened to me at a time when I had insurance, even though I have like a lot of bills, but I had insurance, and it just happened at a time when I was able to manage it, and now I'm healthier than I've ever been. My friend J. Elvis Weinstein, who was on Mystery Science Theater, we just had lunch today. He's visiting New York. He's known me for 30 years, and he said to me today, in the 30 years I've known you, you've never looked healthier than you do right now. You know,
do
which
look
is
better
true.
than ever.
So now you're back doing your thing. You're doing events. You're on the radio now. You're here, but you're doing the bad with the movie
sign with the Mads with Carolina and Trace
do it again?
Beaulieu. And Trace Beaulieu and I are going out on the road doing our live movie riffing show tonight. Later tonight, I'm going to QED and doing a movie riff of Nick Cage's Ghost Rider sequel. And we riffed the Democratic debate the other night at QED. Micah Fox and Kristen Finnegan and myself. So, you know, I'm back. I had to cancel a lot of things over the summer, but now I'm back out there.
You're back.
Yeah. And
so let's talk about there's a brand new comedian, by the way. So Matt, let's play this. Did you guys hear about this great new comedian?
Yes, I did.
Jimmy Mattis. Let's play Jimmy. He's a new kid. Here's clip number 1.
I do stand before you, as was noted here, really having achieved greatness. I mean, I'm not just an overrated general. I am the greatest, the world's most overrated. And this is in no small part. I will tell you, I owe New York. I owe New York for this, because Senator Schumer, have I thanked you for bringing my name up in a rather contentious meeting in Washington where this grew out of. So I would just tell you, too, that I'm honored to be considered that by Donald Trump, because he also called Meryl Streep an overrated actress. So I guess I'm the Meryl Streep of generals. And frankly, that sounds pretty good to me. And you do have to admit that between me and Meryl, at least we've had some victories.
Nice. So,
sick burn.
As comedians, how do you rate the performance there of Jim Mattis? Low key but effective.
Those are some good jokes. It's only effective if you don't think about the fact that he worked for Trump. He never criticized him. He wrote a book about Trump where he never criticized him. He didn't resign after Charlottesville. He's been completely ineffectual and you might even say cowardly in his
I only meant as a comedian. I was just asking.
Yeah, his delivery.
not
wow.
speaking. He did. The jokes were perfectly fine, you know, but but that was my point, though. Like, if you don't know all that, then you're like, oh, that's, you know, he did a pretty good job. But,
right, but you're saying you're bringing the real life story here, and
and
the
it's
stolen valor of James Mattis's jokes.
And some people on Twitter pointed out, you know, that's not this a stand-up routine shouldn't be the place where he's airing his Trump grievances. He should have done it in his book. He should have done it a long time ago. And all these people now, I just saw a David Brooks tweet where he said, because of Trump's behavior over the last month, I would vote for Elizabeth Warren over him now. Over the last month? Really? That's it? The last month? Come on.
Well, I'll welcome them when they come. You know, at this point, it's kind of like anything goes. It's like the Mormons. I'll take anybody now.
So, do you think? Look, Trump hated being laughed at. We all remember the White House Correspondents' Dinner years ago. Where he sat there.
So a lot of people say that started his presidential run.
Potentially,
the resentment of that. He had to go out and prove himself. That
he was actually a punchline. Yeah. He wanted to prove it to all of us, and he did that. But so, Caroline, do you think having these people mock him on some stage that? You know, there are so many people he's fired. Omaroso, they could do a whole roast. It could be Omaroso. It could be in a prison cell live from like Michael Cohen prison cell next to Manafort. The whole list goes on. But do you think this might be effective to get under his nerves? And are you surprised he didn't slam Mattis on Twitter? I was kind of surprised by that.
That hasn't happened yet?
Not for this one.
Oh, well, not yet. I mean, you got to wait till around like 3 a.m. rolls around when everyone else is
asleep. He's too busy destroying the Middle East right now.
Exactly. Yes. You see, he's got too many things to do, too many hands in the bucket. So maybe eventually he'll get around to it. Maybe that's the thing. There's just too many people that piss him off. Like a couple of them have to, just go through the cracks once in a while.
Yeah.
So let's talk about someone who's over your shoulder right now looking at me. It's Tulsi Gabbard on the place where all progressives go, Fox News and Tucker Carlson show. She's a regular there. Now, I pointed out earlier in the show that she'll say progressive media doesn't embrace her. I know I've invited her through her staff many times, and so has Michelangelo Signorelli.
She hasn't come on?
She'll say no. We've had so many great candidates on, but she'll go on Tucker all the time.
Yeah, tell them you're Jimmy Dore.
So, what was your take, my friend, on Hillary Clinton suggesting, not naming Tulsi by name, but saying someone in the field right now seems to be in a way suggesting an asset of the Russians, or the Russians like that person are going to elevate them as potentially a third party.
Well, I mean, the one thing, and I think there's a lot of truth to what Hillary said, and I think we should trust what Hillary said because she's been right about everything. So we shouldn't have the skepticism that a lot of people are showing towards her. But but the thing is, and I may be technically wrong about this, but I think if Tulsi ran as a third party, that would mean she would go all the way to the general election. She would know that she was going to lose, but she would have to forfeit her seat in the House, or maybe she's allowed to run at the same time. I know that in the Senate that's allowed sometimes, where like Joe Lieberman was able to run for vice president and run for senator, and Lyndon Johnson too in 1960. So maybe she'd be allowed, but that very fact alone, that she would have to forfeit her congressional seat, makes me think that maybe she wouldn't do it
unless she gets like some Russian dollars like coming her way for some reason. Or
but
another.
I'm hesitant about like when people say people are Russian assets, because I don't know if Tulsi is a Russian asset. I know that she's a douchebag asset.
Why? So you don't like her at all?
No, you know what? I don't have. There's this disdain that people have for her that I don't have. I think.
You just call her
I
a
think
douchebag.
some of no. I said
something.
She's an asset to douchebags.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, I didn't say she was a douchebag.
So you're saying people who are So you're
the,
saying
the douchebags who in 2016, like who consider themselves far left, but voted for Jill Stein. Those kind of people. She's an asset to, maybe, but I the whole thing about Russia. Tipping our election and stuff. I know there's some truth to that, but I think there's much more truth to the fact that our corporate media tipped the election in Trump's favor in 2016.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
They ran his speeches in their entirety, which was unprecedented, had never been done before. So,
I interviewed Chris Hayes yesterday, and I asked him,
you get good guests.
It depends on just get lucky. But I asked Chris point blank. I said, what are the lessons from 2016 for 2020? Because I said to him, and I said this to Katie Tur and Jacob Soboroff, and Katie got very upset with me.
Oh, did she?
Yeah,
wow.
And we had a spirited discussion, and because she took it personally, because I said to her, and I said this to Chris yesterday, I said, let me finish before you respond here. I'm not saying you helped Donald Trump get elected.
Right.
I'm not saying the host that we know and we're friends with. I said the executives are. Ratings is what they're about. They're publicly traded companies. That's what they're supposed to be about. I have no problem with that. I said to them, I have many listeners, and I agree with them. We have great concerns that corporate media wants Donald Trump to win because he's good for business.
Yes.
They could personally despise the guy. And I said, what have you learned, and what do you say to that? And he said, one practical thing that's changed, that they're not going to play his rallies like they did in 2016.
Right.
And he volunteered. We used to stay on air and play his rallies. He goes, I can assure you we're not doing that now. And they're not doing that now. Because I'm sitting here every night, and Chris' show is on, and they cut away. They'll show like a minute. Sometimes, generally, they don't even talk about it.
Right.
But Carolina, what is your concern about corporate media? I mean, Les Moonves famously said in Between Harassing Women that Trump is bad for America, has been great for CBS, and that's factually correct. He was great for the ratings.
That is totally correct. And it's gotten to the point where I can't even watch the news. Like, I'll read the news. I can't even watch it, especially cable news. It just seems like such, RoboCop. That's what it feels like. Like I'll buy that for $1. And it's gotten to the point where I can't even believe anything anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
Russia's won. You can't believe anything. Trump has won. I mean, to be honest, if you really can't believe anything you're hearing, then Trump has won. Because
well, I mean, I do respect a lot of news sources, definitely, and I do get my news from like
Dino Badala show.
Dino Badala show being number one, and then the other ones number 2 and number 3.
Sure.
But there are times when it just looks like an entertainment show where you feel like I can't take this seriously anymore.
They want the Jeff Zucker, who's the head of CNN, and also responsible for Donald Trump's TV career because he put him on The Apprentice.
Yeah.
he would like. They remember that Jeffrey Lord, who was like an idiot. And he
I
was
remember
on
Jeff. I used to
CNN.
go on with him many times and fight with him.
And
during
he was
2016.
eventually like he said Sig Heil in a tweet, and
Twitter.
they dumped him for that. I mean, they could have dumped him for a million other things, but anyway. Jeff Zucker was quoted in an article. You know, people are like, "Why are you letting why are you letting him on the air?" And he said he's a character in a drama, and that's the way CNN looks at things. That's why they'll have people.
Corey Lewandowski was for a long time,
and they'll have Trump people who they know are liars, like Kellyanne Conway and these other people, and they'll come on the Chris Cuomo show. And he knows they're lying, but he gets into the debate with them because it's drama, and that's what they're going for.
I know somebody who used to work at Fox News as a producer, and he's a correspondent all the time, and he tells me constantly that right before they go on air, they're pretty much saying the total opposite of what they're about to say when they go on air.
Wow.
And they're just doing it just to sell a book or just to get more exposure or whatever, and that's all it is. It's just greed.
Yeah.
Well, it is. By the way, going back to Tulsi Gabbard, Van Jones was just on CNN.
Oh, was he?
And he blasted Hillary Clinton, saying she's playing a very dangerous game going after Tulsi Gabbard. And so, Caroline, we heard his response, but Van Jones said that what happened, you throw out some information, it's disinformation, it's smearing someone. Hillary Clinton's a legend, but she shouldn't be doing this. What's your reaction to Hillary Clinton suggesting that she didn't say Tulsi by name, just so it's clear. She suggested a female candidate in the field, and people ruled out Amy Klobuchar right away. And it's Kamala Harris. They're like,
know,
like it's her.
So people eventually like realized it was Tulsi Gabbard, like probably within like 3 hours, right? Because I remember at first
I read the headline. I'm like, it's Tulsi, right? And sure enough. So.
Oh man, you were so much smarter than I am.
No,
it took me
because
3 hours.
it's not gonna. Who are the women in the field? It's not gonna be Kamala. It's not gonna be Amy Klobuchar. Marianne Williamson, maybe. I'm kidding, folks.
Marianne Williamson is not an asset to anyone.
There could be some kind of Russian crystals that she loves or something. I don't know.
But I think like just the same as like Trump says whatever the hell he wants to say. Like, why can't Hillary, who comes, she comes from a place where she knows what she's talking about. She's got a lot of experience. I voted for her. I wouldn't say I'm like her 100% huge supporter, Hillary, but I do trust her enough to know that what she's saying is something that's warranted to be listened to, as opposed to listening to Trump or Giuliani drone on for 10 minutes.
It's like I said before, she has a history of, and the stuff she said during the 2016 election about Trump, about his connection to Russian, a lot of pundits thought that she was just that she was full of it and that she was just trying to win votes and stuff. So she has, she's earned the right, I think, for people to take. You don't have to necessarily agree with what she's saying, but I don't think she's being irresponsible either.
Exactly.
I just don't want to see it push Tulsi to run as an independent candidate in the 2020 race and peel away some
nobody
Democrats.
make any jokes, okay?
That's my concern about it. Not the silence Hillary. Hillary Clinton has every right to say whatever she wants, like any other American, and certainly with her track record, even more so talking about politics. And that's her view. I just don't want it to see it impact the 2020 race.
Well, if Bernie is the nominee, and it's definitely possible, I think.
It is.
Then that, I think, makes the whole Tulsi Gabbard thing moot. I really don't see her running as a third-party candidate if Bernie is the Democratic nominee. And then if Elizabeth Warren is the nominee, she has a little more leeway to do that because the purists don't consider Elizabeth Warren a true progressive, which is ridiculous. But
Cenk Uygur likes her too. I mean, he tweets nice things about her too. And I'm not saying there are people even to the left of Cenk.
But I think I think with Hillary Clinton was such a divisive figure in 2016, it was really okay for people to not like her and to wish her ill. But
you were a big Hillary person.
I was.
When you're saying she's divisive, you don't mean it that she was.
She wasn't, but
there was a fight between her and Bernie, and some Bernie people. But I got to just point out, studies show, and this is just studies, so I don't know if it's 100% true, but there were more people who supported Bernie in the primary who voted for Hillary than who had supported Hillary in 2008 and voted for Obama.
Right.
That's based on a few
I've heard
studies.
that.
It's not, I'm not
yeah.
spinning. It's what I've read. If that's really true or not, these are small samples of people and they project it out. So if that's right or not, I'm not sure. The perception, though, is the reverse. I think the perception is everyone who supported Hillary voted for Obama, and people who supported Bernie didn't come over. And those studies
but
I've
don't
seen
forget,
do not support that.
Obama won.
That's right. So it didn't. Nobody
times.
cared. Right. So nobody cared in 2008. He won. All right. Let's
He
take
won
a,
decisively both times.
So let's take a quick break. We'll come back more with our friend Frank Conniff and his triumphant return, and our friend Carolina Hidalgo back with us right after this.
Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.
You're listening to What Just Happened with everyone's favorite host, Dean Obidala.
And welcome back, Dean Obidala Show. We're live Friday, October 18th, in studio with our friends Carolina Hidalgo and Frank Conniff, his first time back since he was escorted out and thrown in the street and puffed up by John Fugelsang himself. No, so I've done some. Did you do any of the shows with John with Laughing Liberally? I did one.
Yes,
of them.
I did 2 of them. It was great. It was really fun.
It was a great audience.
Yeah,
I wish we
those
did all
were
the
really
time
good
in a theater
audiences,
setting.
Yeah.
So let's
was
talk
fun.
about something that potentially is funny, but it's not funny in reality. It's that it is. Well, no. Let's go to this one. Let's go to Kamala Harris calling for Liz Warren to join her in getting Trump off Twitter. And I want to play a clip of Trevor Noah right after they went live on the Daily Show after the debate.
Right.
And in this comedy clip is the actual back and forth. But I want to get your reaction. The idea of banning Donald Trump from Twitter. Does that work? And is that a good move? Bad move? Does it really matter? Here's clip number 9 we'll go to.
The weirdest part of the night might have been when Kamala Harris started a real-life Twitter beef. Senator Warren, I just want to say that I was surprised to hear that you did not agree with me that on this subject of what should be the rules around corporate responsibility for these big tech companies, when I called on Twitter to suspend Donald Trump's account, that you did not agree, and I would urge you to join me. Twitter should be held accountable and shut down that site. It is a matter of safety and corporate accountability.
Thank you. Senator Warren, you can respond.
So, look, I don't just want to push Donald Trump off Twitter. I want to push him out of the White House. That's our job.
Join me in saying that his Twitter account should be shut down.
No, let's figure out.
No?
Wow. Someone's mad they didn't get a retweet. What happened there? It's like, you didn't say the thing with me. Elizabeth's like, no, I don't care about that. And I'll be honest. I kind of understand Warren's point here. Like, we need Trump on Twitter. It's the only way we can monitor what he's up to. Yeah, otherwise he's doing that shit in secret. You gotta think of Twitter like a presidential baby monitor. That's what you gotta think of it as. Yeah, the whole time you look and you're like, hold on. He's awake and he wants to nuke a hurricane. I gotta go.
And by the way, Senator Harris, beginning in early October, sent a letter to CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, saying he's using it to threaten and target people. He's clearly in violation of the rules.
Yeah,
So
I was banned from Twitter once. How come Donald Trump never has?
Why were you
been?
banned?
Well, I guess I can say this on. I told a troll to blow me, and
But what if you really meant that wholeheartedly?
I didn't,
and you got banned for saying that?
Yeah, and it was because I've said much worse. I have a regular feature in my Twitter where I tell Marco Rubio, who when he quotes Bible verses, I tell him to go fuck himself. They never object to that, but.
You see, he's doing it to himself, though. You see,
right.
it's just the little nuances.
But the rules are different and I'm sure that, first of all, Twitter, understandably, would be really worried about the repercussions of banning Trump. Because the world would, the conservative world would come down on them heavily. But also, another reason it's not done is don't forget Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg. These are very conservative people. These are people who support conservative causes, and Zuckerberg just yesterday said, "Oh, I'm not going to take."
I want to talk about
misinformation, ads with misinformation off of Facebook, and it's just kind of. Funny how that movie, The Social Network, really underestimated what an asshole Mark Zuckerberg is.
But we've learned about Donald Trump. As president, he's above two sets of laws, the U.S. laws and Twitter laws.
Yes.
Because he's clearly in violation of Twitter policy.
Right.
So, Caroline, do you think he should at least be suspended? I'm speaking of Trump, at least suspended? Because he is definitely, there's no doubt, he's used it to bully people, to target harassment, to get his minions to go after people. What do you think? Or do you think it makes him more of a victim and it helps him?
I don't think it makes him more of a victim because, the people who love him are just going to love him no matter what, right? As far as his Twitter being suspended, it's one of those things of, I understand, like, there's policies with Twitter, and for some reason they don't enforce that all the time, as we can see now. Imagine how many times, like, Trump's, like, Twitter has been reported or flagged.
Yeah, all the time.
Probably every day, all day. Eventually, they probably turn off the button. Who knows what's going on? And this is not like a case of rock and roll is making teenagers crazy. This is these things are having real life repercussions. People are actually dying and people are getting hurt from this. So yeah, I do think he should. But it's not for us to say it's necessarily Mr. Twitter. Why is it Mr.
Jack
Twitter?
Dorsey.
Yeah.
I would love it if they banned him, but it was also just the way Kamala brought it up. It just came off as weird.
It was weird the intensity over an issue like that, but it's it passed in a day. It was talking about a story for a short time. Well, I actually think that the rules should be the same. No one should be above the law or Twitter rules,
right?
And that it should apply equally. So if Donald Trump is an objective violation of the rules, he should be suspended like anyone else. And if he continues to be violating the rules, then he should be booted for good like anyone else. That's the way it should be.
I have a question. Whatever happened to that law where he's not allowed to block people? Because apparently he's blocked.
He can't. A court decision.
And has he gone on his phone and unblocked everybody he's blocked? Because that takes days.
There were some people who were unblocked, but some have said they're still blocked, and the court case is still being decided, still going forward. But that's a great thing. Now, what about Frank brought up something else I wanted to raise? That Mark Zuckerberg, and I talked about it more last week. He said that Facebook if you pay money and put an ad up, a political ad, you can essentially lie in a political ad. While in other things, news stories, they're going to try to keep it to, if it's objectively false, they're going to police it or at least flag it so you're concerned. How is it that you can allow... So this means Trump can run, and he will run, something saying Joe Biden was convicted of crimes in the Ukraine and his son was in prison. He can literally lie like that.
Yeah.
And Mark Zuckerberg, for the cost of an ad, and he doesn't need the money, but the cost of these massive ads, was saying yes to that. This is like Russia affecting our election, paying things in rubles, but now we're doing it with the hindsight and going, you don't want misinformation. He's going, yes, I do. If you pay the right price, I'm happy with misinformation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just another case too of Zuckerberg doesn't want any government, and the government now is Donald Trump administration. He doesn't want any of those people coming down on him. He did say that Elizabeth Warren becoming president was an existential threat to Facebook. It was one of the best ads for Elizabeth Warren I've ever heard,
He gets incredibly less likable by the day. I mean, more unlikable.
He has one of the most punchable faces.
He really does. I never thought of that until now.
Wait till you get home, you're going to be banned on Facebook. Like, what happened? You're saying Mark Zuckerberg. So let's take another quick break because we went long with the first one. We'll come back, and I want to talk about the G7 summit at the Trump golf course, because like all presidents have events at places they own to profit off it. And Republican silence in the face of this is just... Geraldo was upset, but not too many others. Let's take a clip. We'll be right back, and we'll play the clips after this.
Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.
You're listening to What Just Happened with everyone's favorite host, Dean Obidala.
And welcome back to Dino Bidala Show, live Friday, October 18th. It's What Just Happened. Our friends Carolina Hidalgo and Frank Conniff. And Carolina's getting married soon, so we're just going through all the festivities and the planning. I'll be opening with the wedding with about 9 to 12 minutes of very inappropriately Muslim material. A lot of stuff about 4 wives. Like, what are you doing? There's 1 wife. Who does 1 wife? It's 4 wives. But come on, convert now. Join me.
I'll be like, you got 1 more minute.
Take Dino off the stage. He's talking about 4 wives. And your fiance's like, let him talk. Let's hear this out. So let's talk about this insanity. Donald Trump yesterday, through Mick Mulvaney, the Mick walked back of Mulvaney, said they could have had the G7 summit anywhere in the country. Mm-hmm. The last time we had one in the U.S. was held at Camp David.
It's
under Obama.
A logical place to have it, I would say.
But Trump, and they said there were 4 places they were considering. There was Trump Hotel, there was Trump.
They were never considering anything except this place.
So,
because I don't know about Mar-a-Lago, but this place, David Fahrenhold has reported, is doing really bad financially, really needs the financial boost.
And the summer in June, when this is going to be, they're really down because it's hot in Miami.
Yeah.
People are not vacationing in Miami, then they go in the winter. So this is a perfect thing for Trump, just to use the government and foreign money in complete violation of the Emoluments Clause. In fact, here is Andrew Napolitano before he gets fired from Fox News. Clip number 7 from earlier.
The purpose of the Emoluments Clause is to keep the President of the United States of America from profiting off of foreign money. Here we go again. Not in the campaign, but in some event or entity that he controls or is running. He has bought himself an enormous headache now with the choice of this. This is about as direct and profound a violation of the Emoluments Clause as one could create.
And you're fired. Get out. Shep Smith's waiting for you in a car downstairs. Get out of here. So that's pretty clear from a legal point of view. There's no doubt this is a violation of the Foreign Emoluments Clause. Let me ask you this. Let's look at it this way. If you were president, how would you profit personally? Like,
I would profit. There's a very simple way of profiting personally when you're president, but it requires patience. It's wait till your term is done, or 2 terms are done. Get $10 million for a book deal, and then tour. Go do speeches.
Speak for $1 million a pop.
And Bill Clinton and even Jimmy Carter and both George Bushes. You can totally cash in, but I think Trump's greed is such that he just has to. Well, he only thinks about himself. He has no empathy for anyone else, and he only wants to profit. And I think this is too a case of, because everything is so out in the open now, all of his scandals. And I think that because he knows the Republicans are not going to impeach him, I think he feels like he can just get away with it,
What would you do, Carolina? Is there any plan, if you were president, how you can profit? Would you start some business? Is there something that you could sell that we don't know, some skill set you have, and you're like, boom, this is how I make money?
Yeah, I guess starting a podcast would not be on the top of the list, but it could be. It could be.
You could do a podcast and advertise and just personally profit off the ads on your podcast, like call it the POTUS Podcast with Carolina Hidalgo.
I forgot to mention, too, that, and this is all of us in show business have to envy this, Obama has a huge Netflix deal. He's producing shows for Netflix.
Oh, exactly. All I got to do is run for president 2 times, win, and then I'll get my Netflix deal. Like, that's...
I finally get booked on Between Two Ferns with Zach Galifianakis.
Well, as Tina Dupuis, who's been on your show, and is a
friend of ours.
She coined the term the presidential candidate industrial complex, and it's a lot of these people that run and they know they're not going to win. I think Marianne Williamson would be an example of this. It's really good for their brand. They get a lot of publicity, and then they can really cash in and make money. I know the epitome of that was Newt Gingrich. When he ran, and it was a pointless run, but then he was on CNN and he was making all this money.
To me, how I would profit is I would get the sort of like in Capitol in Congress, there's all the commissaries, their cafeterias.
Right.
I give it to one of my cousins. It was just called Dean's Falafel Hut. Like you have just falafel all the time. It's the only food you can buy. And you want to come in, and then all world leaders have to come in. And where we're having dinner? No, not the big blue room. We're going to Dean's Falafel House of Falafels or something, because it's unbelievable. Imagine if Obama had a hotel chain.
I know.
And how the Republicans would have reacted if President Obama made $1, if his kids made $1 from their job.
Or Hillary, too. Well, Hillary, they already made up a bunch of scandals about the Clinton Foundation and about all the profiting she was doing,
There was an ad run today on Fox and Friends by these Republicans for law or something like that. It's like an oxymoron type of thing. Here, let's play a little bit of it. Clip number 3. This is a real ad. It was run today. Clip number 3.
When Donald Trump ran for president, he criticized Hillary Clinton for
Hillary Clinton used the State Department to enrich their family at America's expense. She gets rich, making you poor. I'm running for president to put you, the American worker, first.
Well, since Trump has been president, the only thing he's put first is his own interests.
Taxpayer money.
Taxpayer money.
Your tax money was spent at Trump properties.
At Trump properties.
President Trump saying the 2020 G7 will be at the Trump National Doral, a property he owns.
Vice President Mike Pence spent 2 nights at one of President Donald Trump's golf resorts.
Pence's decision to stay there cost taxpayers $600,000.
The U.S. military spent $200,000 in taxpayer funds at President Trump's resort.
After the election, Mar-a-Lago doubled its initiation fee.
4 members of Mar-a-Lago have been tapped for diplomatic positions.
You're having the President of the United States taking money from the American people and putting it in his own pocket.
That's a great ad. That actually is a really great ad.
That was
it came
on
out
Fox?
today. Fox and Friends in the D.C. area. It's digital, and they're trying to play it everywhere. And it really is.
That sounds like a trailer of a documentary my kids are going to see and say, "Why? What the fuck happened? What did you do?"
Well, what are future generations, when they look back at this, and I wonder if it's a blip. I wonder if it just gets, whatever happens to Trump, say he loses, or gets removed would be great. He just loses, and people just ignore a lot of it, and we pretend it didn't happen.
I think and the most likely scenario of if he does leave will be him losing, although he still might not go. But
don't ever say that, Frank.
I think there'll be a lot in corporate media of just moving on and treating it like a blip, but it really has to be taken very seriously what we allow to happen in this country.
Well, I think we all learned how the checks and balances of our Constitution are a paper tiger, that they're not really that effective, and that if someone is willing to blow through all the norms and customs, that they can make themselves almost the king because they know they cannot be charged while they're in office. They can get away with anything. I mean, giving yourself, the G7, the world leaders are coming to summit at your property, is as brazen as you can get. It's like gangster criminal, like right in your face, like, boom, what are you going to do about it? And that's the problem. There's so little we can do about it.
And why is it that you can't charge your president while they're in office? I mean, it feels like a thing that obviously this is Republicans. It just seems so obvious. I can't even say I think, but it also seems that the minute a Democrat gets elected into office, they're going to start pushing for that and then try to find it. He stole a pencil.
They would have. Hillary Clinton, had she been elected, and she kind of was, but she would have been impeached by now by this Republican Congress. They would have been
in the first term.
That would have been the first thing they did.
That's a great point. They would have done Uranium 1 hearings. They would have done server hearings over and over and over. That's all they would have done.
And the one thing that I think it's kind of good for Hillary, as someone who likes Hillary, I kind of like seeing her kind of out of public office and just kind of living her life, and she's never, all they talk about is lock her up, and she's never going to go to jail, and she's living a much more stress-free life than these Republicans will hate her guts,
And if she had won, Trump would be cheerleading for her to be indicted, and how the DOJ memo should get rid of. It's just DOJ guidelines that say you can't indict a
and
sitting
Trump
president.
would be on TV every night if she had won.
Right.
He'd be leading like a big opposition against her. He'd be talking about how he was cheated out of the election.
That's how she was born in Africa.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's take a quick break. We'll come right back.
Your entire week's exhausting news broken down in one hilarious hour. What Just Happened is now live with Dean Obeidallah.
And welcome back, Dean Obeidallah's show. We're still live Friday, October 18th, in studio. Frank Conniff, his first time, his triumphant return to Sirius XM and radio.
They haven't thrown me out yet.
You're still here.
So, Carolina, your wedding's coming up. Where can people send gifts? Is there any place?
Well, you know what? We're not registered anywhere, but if you tweet at me a well wish or some sort of gift, I would be very happy with that.
She's getting married next month. I know her for many years.
Many
so
years
happy.
for this, New York stand-up comedy scene and everything, and now here it's serious. So yeah.
And Frank Conniff, where can people? You're back out doing live events and appearances. Where can people go to find out more about that?
They can go to Frank Conniff on Twitter and Facebook, and I always promote all my gigs. Later on tonight, I'm doing the Movies Are Dumb show at QED with the Nick Cage Ghost Rider sequel, and then so just go follow me on Twitter and Facebook. You'll find out about all my gigs.
And Movie Sign with the Mads on
with the
iTunes
Mads,
and anywhere you find podcasts.
Well, you guys, thank you both for coming, and Frank, it was great
Thanks
to see you.
for having us.
I was so
great
excited
to be
see
here,
you, my friend. First, folks, I'll be on Twitter all week, and I'm the neediest Muslim, as you know. I'm on Twitter at Dean Obeidallah. Or sincerely, drop me an email. I'd love to hear from you. Dean@deanofradio.com. That's DEAN @deanofradio.com. Matt and Crystal, thank you. Have a great weekend, everyone. Look forward to chatting with you right here on Monday night, the Dean Obeidallah Show.